Absolutely excited. Okay. We're absolutely excited to have you on board this morning. I Desi Hall, she is going to be speaking to us from Jobs to Move America. She's in Alabama, okay? And I'm going to let her really talk fully about Jobs to Move America, talk about herself, her own journey. I know have been associated with Jobs to Move America, oh my goodness, for the better part of about 7 years now. And I'm very honored to serve as the vice chair of the board of directors for JMA. And this is an organization that is all about, you will oftentimes in transportation or many of these sectors, you'll hear people talk about the triple bottom line, okay? How we're able to not, in addition to driving good services and good, you get good facilities and all of that, that what you can really utilize, these are multi-trillion-dollar, let me be clear, trillion-dollar enterprises. Okay, and I'm saying this is not, and so that we have an opportunity to not just move the service and we got a good facility, we got good equipment, but to also be able to really drive outcomes, economic outcomes in terms of good jobs. And that has really been a primary focus of Jobs to Move America, but also business opportunities. Okay, with this whole transformation of a green economy and a change from a petroleum-based global economy, there is major transformation and major opportunities for people to wind up being able to also think good jobs, entrepreneurially, as well as to be able to move social equity and environmental outcomes, okay? And so that's why you'll hear a lot of times, and sometimes it's kind of cliche, we have a triple bottom line here, okay? And so that's and so Jobs to Move America said, well, you know what? We're gonna start with jobs, okay, I'm saying, but my daddy used to say, I can show you better than I can tell you, okay? And so you're talking about a triple bottom line, so now let's see it. What does a triple bottom line look like? How do we, in fact, wind up making sure that communities are, in fact, all communities, and particularly those communities that have been a victim in many respects historically of poor decision making, poor, discriminatory, racist, or just ignorant decision making that took place around transportation and these infrastructure improvements, how we can help to do some good as opposed to, and really make good on that promise of triple bottom line. So JMA, very proud to say, I think that they are absolutely, I like it. I like them because they're not just the thought leader. I like folks who not only research and think about things, but who actually get on the ground and do things and try to help make things happen with communities, not for them. And so it gives me great pleasure again to introduce, we told every organization, can we please see your young people? Okay, and I'm saying, and so I'm being honest, can we please see your young people? And so Desi is well, she's been with JMA for quite a while, and they have quite a story of what they've been able to do nationally, have a very major initiative as well that's in the southern portion of the United States. And Desi, we're very proud of you at JMA, and turn it over to you. Tell us about your story, about JMA, about community benefits agreements, and the whole 9 yards.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful intro. As mentioned, my name is Desi Hall. I was born in the beautiful, wonderful Selma, Alabama. And my great grandfather, his name was Reverend J.D. Hunter. He was a part of the Courageous Eight, a part of the 8 people that originally invited Dr. King and the NAACP to Selma to get things started. So I kind of situate myself as coming from a legacy of civil rights. So it has always felt like I had some kind of duty to pick that up and to really move forward with it in my own way. And as life does, life made sure that I did. So it is quite a journey. And especially ended up at JMA, I have worked all over the world. No, not literally all over the world, but all over these different industries. I was an RA. I did communications. I ran a nonprofit that served Black trans students, and now I'm here. Because at the core of everything that I do is a great sense of wellness and a great sense of duty to people's wellness. And one of the major ways that I'm finding you make people well is to give them a good job so they can pay their bills, so they can get their health care, so they can get their food, so they can get to where they need to do, so they can have extra, like all of these things really start from being okay. Well, I won't say start with, but it's very intertwined with being okay at your job and having a job that supports you and supports your spirit. And I believe that CBAs are one tool and one path forward that we can use to create environments where people are well, even though they have, people have to go to work and provide for themselves. And sometimes the jobs are hard labor, but with tools like a CBA, which you'll hear more about in my presentation that I'm about to start, there's a path forward to make these situations a lot better and to change the way that the workplace looks, meaning that folks who have been historically barred out from certain jobs or certain industries have a path forward to make sure that when these companies come to their communities, building these plants, that, they take care of the least of these, as the scripture likes to say. So with that, I'm going to get into my presentation. And I'm also going to go off camera. Jobs to Move America, creating equitable opportunities for all using CBAs. Jobs to Move America is a strategic policy center founded in 2013 by Madeline Janis. JMA became a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2016. Our mission is to advance a fair and prosperous economy with good jobs and healthier communities for all. We envision a nation where all levels of government use the power of public funds to create public good. Our values include justice, equity, and inclusion, democracy, and good governance, worker empowerment, coalition building, transparency, and accountability, and leadership development. All of that to say is that it takes many pieces, and we try to find and use the many pieces that are in our lane to create a better world, for a better working environment for people. And I did a lot of this in the beginning with my intro, but just to emphasize again, many people place the thoughts of wellness, the idea of wellness, in the realm of luxury, of self-care, of, these very capitalistic things that you have to go out and buy and do. But I believe that wellness is a fundamental human right. And having a good job, again, is a key piece to a person being well. And that's why I'm excited to talk to you today about how CBAs can create good jobs and healthier communities across America. The South has a long history of systemic racism and anti-Blackness. The the Civil War was fought in the South, and that legacy still lives here in the South. Black workers in the South have historically been concentrated in low-wage jobs with limited benefits and opportunities for advancement. This has resulted in a significant wage gap between Black and white workers, perpetuating cycles of poverty and inequality. Black workers are often assigned the most hazardous jobs and physically demanding jobs, putting their health and safety at risk while also being looked over for the promotions that should come with these jobs. While the Supreme Court offers protection against being fired for being LGBT and there are other protections that exist in the workplace, The problem often is getting in. And that is why I think CBAs are an important path forward to make sure that people get into the door in order to even be protected. Community benefits agreements. Community benefits agreements, or CBAs, are private contracts between community groups and employers that guarantee living wages, apprenticeships programs, protection for workers' rights to organize, race and gender-based equity measures, including commitments to hire or train people who have historically been out of the workplace. Despite the fact that Jim Crow laws are gone, slavery is gone, racism and anti-Blackness still have a grip on almost every aspect of life for Southern Black workers. These CBAs, by them being legally binding agreements, can be enforced through arbitration. CBAs have the power to transform communities by building fair local economies, holding companies accountable, and advancing the racial and gender equity. The early advocates of the CBA was pioneered by a diverse group of stakeholders, including community organizers, labor unions, environmental advocates, and civil rights activists. These visionaries recognized the need for a more equitable and inclusive approach to development and economic growth. The Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy played a significant role in the development and popularization of CBAs. Founded in 1993, Lane was a nonprofit organization dedicated to building a new economy for all with a focus on good jobs, thriving communities, and a healthy environment. Lane was co-founded by Madeline Giannis, who also founded the organization that I currently work at. Shout out to Madeline. She is a prominent community organizer and attorney, and Roxana Tynan, a skilled organizer and advocate for workers' rights. Under their leadership, Lane had been at the forefront of the CBA movement and was able to be involved in numerous successful CBA negotiations. One of the significant ones, and one of the cases that play a big role in CBAs being popular today, was the CBA with the Staples Center. In 2001, Lane was instrumental in negotiating one of the first high-profile CBAs in the United States, involving the development of the Staples Centers in Los Angeles. This landmark agreement set a precedent for future CBAs and demonstrated the potential of these agreements to create tangible benefits for local communities. Lane's success in promoting CBAs is largely due to its collaborative approach and strong partnerships with labor unions, community organizations, faith groups, and environmental advocates. These alliances have allowed Lane to effectively advocate for the needs of diverse stakeholders and ensure that CBAs address a wide range of community concerns. Now, I'll talk about a little case study where I will talk about a particular CBA that we got down in Alabama that covers several other plants as well, between New Flyer, a electric bus manufacturing company, Greater Birmingham Ministries, and Jobs to Move America. The New Flyer JMA and GBM Community Benefits Agreement is an agreement between the New Flyer Group, Jobs to Move America, and Greater Birmingham Ministries. The CBA covers their New Flyer's Ontario, California, and Anniston and Alabama facilities. These provisions, initiatives, and commitments in the agreement include ambitious, measurable hiring and promotional goals for historically disadvantaged groups. And in our CBA, we define historically disadvantaged, marginalized groups as people who are Black, Indigenous, and/or people of color, women, LGBTQ persons, systemic impacted folks, meaning folks who have been incarcerated at one point or another, and persons emancipated from the foster care system, and residents of Anniston lacking GED or high school diploma, and veterans. This definition ensures that the agreement addresses the needs of diverse communities and promotes inclusive hiring and promotion practices. New Flyer committed to offering jobs and promotions to people from historically disadvantaged groups, increasing access to opportunities and equitable representation in the workforce. We also negotiated that there will be a pre-apprenticeship program created to prepare workers for employment at New Flyer with the focus on soft skills and mathematical literacy. A technical training program will teach hard skills needed for metal, mechanical, and electrical work, prioritizing workers who complete the pre-apprenticeship program. CBAs as a tool to help transform American infrastructure. CBAs are a powerful tool that can be used to make the workforce more equitable. Community benefits agreements, being legally binding agreements, have the ability to place the power back into the hands of community when dealing with these mega corporations. And it has the power to not only transform the transportation sector, but also various areas within American infrastructure, including construction, energy, technology, and manufacturing. These agreements can be tailored and should be tailored to address the unique challenges faced by historically marginalized groups in whatever community you're in, because every community is going to have different needs, and we know that. So, your CBA might need something that includes provisions for elderly workers. If you have a large population of elderly workers in your community who are out of work, but aren't ready to retire, this might be something that you would want to include in your CBA. CBAs overall gives communities a voice in the decision-making process, allowing them to advocate for their needs and priorities. I want you to imagine a world where every infrastructure project is guided by the principles of equity, sustainability, and community well-being, made possible by the widespread adoption of community benefits agreements. By harnessing the power of CBAs, we can create a domino effect that transforms entire industries, fostering a more inclusive and equitable economy that benefits all Americans.
And then Desi, thank you so much. It was really, really great. I'm going to, I mean, you were wonderful. So I did want to make a couple of, and it came through, but Jobs to Move America, we have their locations across the United States. We got Chicago, New York, but the home base was out of LA in Southern California, and now very much I would say probably the number 2 office in size. Okay, we have Chicago, and like that is Birmingham, and that's part of really a 10 state look of the South, because one of the things that's been happening in the South is really a return of U.S. manufacturing. Okay. And that U.S. manufacturing and we love to see U.S. manufacturing returning to the United States, but don't want to see that happen because there's been a history of low wage, pretty much unprotected jobs, if you will, in where you really don't have CBAs or any type of feel how you may about labor. I happen to look at labor as very much a partner, okay? But without having some type of real consistent focus on the rights of workers, rights from a safety, reliability standpoint, and also in terms of wages and benefits, okay? And so anyway.
Dr. Scott, I was definitely, and especially thinking about in terms of the ways in which a lot of Southern states tends to be so anti-labor, anti-unions, CBAs can really represent a way to bring in workers' rights where there isn't a lot of legislation to protect workers. So, it represents adding a legal element where there isn't none.
Yeah. And when you really look at it, it's everything that people have gotten in terms of whether it was women being able to be fairly treated. Look at how, you just go back to sweatshops and all this kind of slavery, sweatshops and everything else. It's unfortunate, but the world is not always a kind world. Okay. And oftentimes very much driven by, extractive bottom line, I get mine, you get yours if you can. And that has absolutely, I don't preach into the choir. There got to be some kind of rules and some guidance and some real values and goals and outcomes that really drive this, and some accountability. Okay, gotta have accountability. So I wanted, and then talk a little bit when you were saying that the coalition that you brought the part in there about the Greater Birmingham Ministries. Okay, so JMA, certainly had all the concept and had done the research and the work on a lot of the work on this, but when they were coming to the South, okay, recognize the fact that this, you couldn't do it. It wouldn't even be legit or authentic if it was just another group coming to tell people, let me pontificate. And so you really have quite a coalition in terms of the Greater Birmingham Ministries, and then others in the area as well. Okay, if you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So again, I think, especially when you're talking about addressing the needs of a particular community, where in a place like Alabama, city to city, the needs can greatly vary. It's important to pull together a lot of partners who have different views of the problem. Because again, JMA came in with this wonderful concept, but then you have people like GBM who has been working with churches and faith leaders throughout the state who have talked to their congregants who know more about various workers' issues happening. And then you have labor people who are laboring in these manufacturing plants and have a piece of the problem. And you have environmental people who are talking about the ways in which these plants infect the environment of the local area, because that also goes into the wellness. It doesn't matter if you have a good job, if your good job is dumping toxic waste in your community, right?
Exactly.
So, and again, and I emphasize that, where you're located, wherever you are, your coalition will look a lot different. But to bring something like a CBA together, where you're trying to address widespread or centralized worker discrimination, you have to have many hands at the table, many minds at the table, just because the problems are so vast and we need many solutions. And I think, again, we have to also be mindful of, that the corporations coming into communities are skilled. They know what they're doing. They know how to figure out ways to exploit a lot of times and work around these laws in the South because they're not very stringent. So when you're dealing with entities that tend to be very skilled in disrupting and finding ways around giving people what they need, you need a lot of people who will be able to catch certain things or even call out certain BS. So that's one of the main reasons why it was so important. Our coalition, our Alabama Coalition for Community Benefits, is comprised of many groups of faith leaders. There's a group of Alabama Rise policymakers, and it's ran by Patricia Todd. She's a former legislator in the state, so she's wonderful. But again, I think when addressing any problem, but especially problems in areas where the problem has historically been seen as okay and as a part of the subculture, you have to have a lot of different ways to attack that thing because it's so deeply ingrained into the culture. And worker exploitation and the idea that Southern workers can just take worse jobs or bad jobs because it's the South, because everything's so cheap, it's so prevalent. So when you're fighting these cultural norms as thick as that too, you really have to be plugged into the community. There's no way around coming in being anybody's savior. It's just not going to work.
Yep. And the other is because I have so much family in the South. No, don't that quietness or that cautiousness or whatever, don't underestimate, okay? But because people don't have, and the infrastructure deficits are so great, okay? So when somebody starts talking about, this might be $3 more than you could possibly look to make. And so that whole thing in terms of, I gotta feed my family, put a roof over their head and whatever. And is this another kind of carpetbagger or fly by night? You know what I'm saying? They're here today and they be gone tomorrow. And then I still have talking about my personal well-being and stuff. So it's a lot, like you're saying, and stuff is really deep. And I find one thing that's very interesting when everybody gets together too, is that there's a lot of stuff that happens out of ignorance. And that's not stupidity. Everybody is ignorant. It's just a lack of exposure to things. Okay. And so what happens is, and you look at it, we don't even, most of the time, young people don't, the people don't even have to go to civics or anything about how government works. Like when I was going to school, like I still remember how a bill became a law, not because I want to or why there is an electoral college, whether you like it or not, because I had to go to civics class.
And I only know that because of Schoolhouse Rock, not because of teachers.
Because of teachers. Okay, so when you start saying, well, how do people really understand how the cow ate the cabbage and all this kind of stuff like that? Because they're really not getting into school. So my point being that a lot of times that when you start unpeeling, helping people to have the tools, that so many people are with you to unlock what's going on. Because when these companies are coming down, yes, they're bringing U.S. manufacturing back into areas, but they are usually also getting very big tax breaks and benefits and everything that the normal person, it's not, it's like it's hidden in plain sight. Okay. It happened at the city council meeting. It happened, and it doesn't mean that those elected officials are bad people, because they want to attract new economy, all this stuff to their communities. But if you don't have the collective looking at it and
Absolutely.
asking questions and knowing, there are things you sitting up here fussing with somebody at the council meeting about, well, only to know, not knowing that 3 years ago when they signed some master agreement, they were so happy to get it that they signed away whatever, you know what? So, and a lot of those things happen as much simply because you just don't know, and you don't even know what you don't know. And so this whole thing of really actively engaging community, people learning together, learning from each other, having networks where, and then when you get this whole thing going with the CBAs and get all this out to people, oh, people are not stupid. Say, oh, there's a way to take care of this as a community benefits agreement. And you can do, and so I'm just not trying to, but really, some of it gets almost like just is real, and don't have people tell you what you can't do when you can start saying, well, this community did it, and this community, what you talking about is illegal. Okay. So anyway, that's a little bit of
I see so many different ways that this tool can be used just across industries for communities. I think about all of the various private liberal arts or even public schools that are situated in low income neighborhoods that those neighborhoods don't really benefit from the school presence. So, in cases like that, this is places where CBAs can be negotiated and, figure out ways to, you're in our neighborhood, you're using our resources. So how do we make this beneficial for parties?
Right. And I always say to people, institutionalization, and I know it sounds like a big word, but it's not even, not trying to be funny. Laws, regulations, not that they can't be changed, laws, regulations, policies, if you can't get them, a board policy, things that have to be done transparently so that the public, you can ask and work or fight on that part. Access to, I can see it. It's a law. Here it is. It's a regulation. It's that board of directors or that city council by municipal ordinance. Now, yes, those things can always be changed, but when you put the sunlight on things, it's a very different position that you're in when people have to disassemble or change those things. They got to put it in the public light again. Now, that doesn't take away the responsibility for monitoring. So that's why I always tell people is that institutionalization, if you're doing your job, everybody along their way, know that you will be a footprint in the sand. And when you leave and go on either to your maker or you go on to something else, we all have a responsibility. Don't think about your personality. When you leave, we should be trying to make sure that what we leave are the tentacles of things that will last beyond just a nice personality or wonderful person. Okay, and I'm saying, because and so I always say that, laws, statutes, and that trump personality and practice. Okay, because those things can be changed. And how many times do you know yourself in your own world that, oh, there was a wonderful person. They were the CEO. They were the whatever. They were here for 4 or 5 years. We always got along so well. And then they go on to do whatever they're going to do. And then you come into maybe another, you're not fortunate. You come in, say, oh my God, we're getting ready to play this all over again, Sam. And we got nothing to really fall back on. So that's just in the part of what all the CBAs and all of that, if it's important, just like anything else, if it's important, then it needs to be able to be written, okay? And it needs to be able to have public visibility on it. And then you want to follow the public visibility piece of it, because you don't want to have to make that be something where you got to pay $500 before you can get a copy of something. So it's all these, democracy works, but we got to work it. Okay, now I'm saying, and so that means active engagement. So now I'm gonna do this, Des, because I know everybody say we don't come on here every week to be hearing her preaching. I want you, I think it's fascinating how you connected. It talk about career. You connected, and it's so nice how you did it. It's like, I tell people, if in an April ride last week was so good, if you follow your values, if you follow your purpose, and if you put these things together, and your path will be, you'll be good. Okay. So you said, I felt like I had a legacy and a purpose that was calling to me, that was really steeped in who I grew up as. Okay. And then I always knew that, your person, you can't do stuff well for other people if you're not feeling like you whole as best as you can be. But then how you then so practically said, look, but I am not stupid. How in the devil, like people talk about health and well-being like it's some special something over here. How in the world can we have an expectation fundamentally that somebody can feel whole, well, or whatever, and they do not even know how the light bill gonna be paid next month, okay? And so, let's make it real and say, if we're really real on this, don't segment this stuff. If we're real about caring so much about emotional well-being and all that kind of stuff like that, what parent, what kid, if the child don't even know how they're going to eat, is going to wind up reasonably feeling emotionally whatever. So there are certain things that, and so I'm going to turn it to you, Desi, because to me, the manner in which you knitted those things together and found a, you say my journey's been, I've been making this, okay, but Jobs to Move America is very different than where you were before as well, but you've got a constant theme in it. So I'm just saying that's about following your North Star, your guiding light. Okay, go ahead, Des, take it away. And then I'm gonna go to everybody on the call.
So I mean, listen, I graduated high school and I just love to write. So I thought I wanted to be a journalist. And I pursued that for a long time. Just a little interesting tidbit about me. I grew up in a religious cult in my high school years. So that is part of what drove me to pursue theology and to really question the meaning of God and people's relationships with God. And also my best friend, Kayla, she went to Harvard Divinity School and she deeply inspired me. But God has always been intricately tied, spirit or God or whatever word you want to use, to almost every aspect of my life. Because, I'm an Aries with the Gemini moon. So I feel things on a very deep level. I feel things super deeply. And I would find myself in these jobs. My first job was at Whole Foods, pre-Amazon buying them out. And it was lovely. It was lovely. It was lovely. And then I went and got another job. And I found out that not every job was lovely, especially me being a young Black trans woman growing up in the South, trying to navigate that aspect of life. In full transparency, because of my appearance, I didn't experience as much transphobia as most folks was, but everybody is not in that privileged position. And that's kind of been the thing that I've been tearing against, like a lot of my career and a lot of moving, is the fact that, there are people like me who don't even have access to the most low paying jobs that you can think of. And it made me very curious about finding ways to make them well. And I didn't just immediately land in the aspect of jobs. I think wellness is a community project. I think it takes a lot of people to make a community and people well. But I'm sitting up here stressing about work, mad that I gotta pay bills. And I also think about my mom. Like my mom had to work night jobs, and I don't think that contributed to her wellness to be away from me at night, to be worried about, what's going on at home with her child. So I mean, there's just all these aspects of just life that I witnessed growing up in the South, of people being really unwell. And a lot of it starting with the fact that they couldn't take care of themselves. And if they could take care of themselves, they were sacrificing time with family in order to do it, sacrificing sleep, sacrificing their health in many cases, because you don't have time to go to the doctor in a lot of these jobs because they want you working 6-7 days a week. So, and again, my own struggles with my mental health, having an anxiety disorder, like all of these things contributed to me getting very curious about finding the ways in which people can become better. And after landing at JMA, originally as a faith organizer, I'm now a researcher. Just started as a researcher like a week ago, which I love because I'm a research nerd. But I really started to get a better understanding on the ways in which these job spaces could be affected. Because I always had an understanding, unions existed. Now they ain't teach us nothing about union in middle school, high school, nothing.
No.
I didn't get that understanding from there. But my grandma was in a union at American Apparel down in Selma. And that was about the extent I knew of unions and ways to make the workplace better. But I got to JMA and I heard about this community benefits agreement and I thought it was the most creative thing ever. I was like, this is amazing. Like, because it literally puts the power back into communities to ask for something directly. And I'm all about direct ask. I'm all about making things benefit me and the people around me. Because, especially us people of color, we're taught to self-sacrifice and that things shouldn't benefit us and that if we ask for more, ask for things to be equitable, then we're kicking up a fuss or something. But all of that to say, I saw a lot of bad stuff and a lot of bad practices growing up when it comes to work and when it comes to healthcare. So I have dedicated my life to wellness and making people be more well. And JMA is really giving me an avenue to do that and to think about that more broadly, especially as I think about people's work life where people spend so much time. Like, a lot of times more time than they do with their family. So,
and people are finding even in this remote world where they used to be, the people won't work if they doing things remote. Finding now that is not the case at all. They're trying to find that separation to say, no, now work is over with. And now we're going to do this. Okay. Now I'm saying
that's even been hard for me being at JMA where it's like, I'm a part of the nonprofit union. It's my first time ever being in a union job. I think it's the sweetest shit ever. I mean, it's the sweetest thing ever. And I just live for it. I totally live for it. And I think, I really think that JMA is doing very unique work, and it gets my mind going in a way that makes me think about things beyond the labor campaign that we usually have in our minds when thinking about workplaces.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do, Des, thank you so much. Anybody that would like to ask a question, we are going to go to hello, Annette, how are you doing? We are going to the chat.
Do y'all mind if I eat a French fry real quick?
You just go right ahead and eat a French fry. Anybody have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. It's Isaiah with Dr. Stan Aya. So, like you said before, like you've kind of been like a leader in your own right before Jobs Move America. Like you've ran a nonprofit, you've worked with youth for essentially like your whole life. I was curious about your time with Jobs to Move America. Like what are some of like the biggest things they have taught you or instilled into you as like the leader role that you play in your work today? And then I guess like another thing, if you could tell me like if you have like one or two like distinguishable moments in your career that kind of like changed the trajectory of like your life, whether it was just like a huge revelation in like the work that you do, or it was just like a huge, oh, I need to get myself together moving forward, if you know what I mean.
Mm. Um, so to answer the first question, I think one of the biggest things that JMA has taught me is like systems, like, and it's been really, really helpful. And then it's translated to other areas of my life. Because I think between the record keeping, and the development of things like raps or pops that tell you about a organizing situation or anything that you're about to, it's just very systemic, and it's very organized in a way that didn't come naturally to my brain. And on top of JMA being very like organized in that way, there's also a lot of instruction. So it helped me to ease into the organization very easily in that regard. And I think significant moments in my career, I definitely want to say JMA has been a significant moment, mainly because I think, and I'm gonna talk about another one, but I'll talk about this one first, because I love Erica and I want to brag on Erica. This was the first time I think I came into a job where I felt like super seen beyond just the worker level, but somebody was like, I believe in you, and we're going to make sure that you be successful, that you have the tools you need in order to be successful. So I think that was a very pivotal moment because it made me take myself more serious for Erica, Erica Harris, who has been just this giant in the labor movement, done so much, so deeply knowledgeable. And for her to take me so serious and to believe in me so much, it made me take myself very serious.
Yeah. And I would like to say that we are very different at JMA. So we went into a co-executive director positioning. Erica had been the deputy, and she started like maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. But Madeline had been the executive director since, well, the beginning, since 2013 with Lane, and thinking about succession, but just also we are very much about but promotion from within. And so at our last board meeting, we came with a co-executive director model. And I'm really pleased to say that as well, that Erica Ihimi, who is in Birmingham, okay, but she's done, like Desi said, she's been out there with the local community organizing and labor for years, okay, is our co-executive director along with Madeline Janice. So we're very, very pleased with that. And such wonderful role models, okay, and mentors.
Yeah. And a second moment that I can think of that kind of, and this isn't directly related to work, but it is. So I again, wellness and all of this became so intertwined for me. In 2020, the pandemic had happened. Everything went virtual. I was suddenly in a master's program online, which was, that was a lot for me. And I had this just terrible anxiety disorder developing. And by the time this summer came, it kind of reached a pinnacle. And I think, I was having panic attacks and couldn't breathe. It was all of this. And I think there was that moment that I had to make the decision that no matter what, I have to be in work situations that are healthy that leave me well, that, pay me well, pay me for my work. So I think those were moments. I think it was a moment where Erica believed in me, and also this moment where work and all of these other things were contributing to me being so mentally messed up. Because I was like, I'm never getting back there again. So yeah.
And where you just kind of find the resilience or the whatever to be able to, those times you just have to say, punch through. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And it won't always be that you're real
Breathe through
clear
for me.
about.
It's
Yeah,
always
break.
about breathing, because in those moments when things happen or life is stressful, work is stressful, I stop breathing, I clam up. But it's like, no, keep breathing, keep walking.
Keep breathing. You can do it. You can do it. That's it. That's it. Well, I tell you, any other questions or comments or
Yeah, one question got DM'd to me anonymous.
okay.
Yeah, so as as a member of the LGBTQ community, you wear your trans identity with pride, and it's like on your sleeve, you know what I mean? So one of the questions someone had is, how important has your identity been in the work that you do? And why is it important for you as the figure you are to be doing the work you do today?
Mhm.
That was a long question. Okay. Repeat the question for me. I want to make sure I answer it good.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. As a trans woman, you are very prideful in your identity, and you carry that pride and identity with you in your work, in everything you do. So how important is your identity slash, what role has it played in the work that you do? And why is it important that a person like you is doing the work that you do?
Surely
So I think I wear my identity with such pride, one, because God made it. God made me. God made me to this point. So it was a journey to get to that point, but I have a duty to celebrate and to hold all of the aspects that God gifted me with in this life, all of the talents, all of the identities. For me, I don't hold any identity over the other. I always hold them all together, but I think it's important for me to be doing this work too, because again, it shows people that there are other jobs out there. There are other, especially people who look like me, who are searching for safety in workplaces, who are searching for workplaces that don't leave them drained or traumatized, really. It's important for them to see me so that they know that there are other avenues out there, and the other avenues don't always look like, going directly into a manufacturing plant. There are a lot of different ways to contribute to this movement and to workforce equity. But more than that, I think it's important so, people like me, Black trans folks all over the world know that there are legal tools, there are remedies that we can do to make our lives a little bit better. Because we are facing a lot right now, a lot of hate, a lot of senseless legislation. So it's important for me to be here, so y'all know that we here.
Fire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute right now, Dr. Scott.
On in this background over here. It's just, so are there any other questions? How many people knew about community benefits agreements when you got on this call? Tell the truth and shame the devil. I did. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And Desi, thank you very, very much. This has been just absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story and your personal journey. It's been wonderful. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Thank you. We're going to give you back 7 whole minutes. Okay.
Woo!
You get 7 whole minutes, and I'm simply saying to those who are participating in the program, we're gonna do a super trivia. So all of these wonderful lunch and learns and TRB webinars and all this, you'll be seeing aspects of them coming your way. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, Des, and enjoy those fries. Wait,
They're from Milo's. I don't know if you ever been to the South or you know about
Yeah.
Milo fries.
I know
You
about
have been to the South.
Milo's. Okay,
Okay. All right.
take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.